In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. The attainment of peace through the process of Sankhya Yoga is for the modern man almost impossible. But peace is easily available through the process of Buddhi Yoga, our loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord, and this peace is of the highest nature. It far exceeds the happiness experienced through any other process. Activities that are directly connected to devotional service blossom and develop unhindered by anything external. The amount of devotional activity one performs always remains intact. It is a permanent spiritual gain for the performer, never to be rendered futile. Even a little execution of devotional service is enough to save one from the greatest type of fear. The process of pure devotional service is one. At the same time, the Gita points out how to execute Buddhi Yoga through jnana or analytical study and karma or fruitive action. When Buddhi Yoga is executed in conjunction with fruitive activity, it is known as Karma Yoga. Similarly, when it is executed in conjunction with analytical study, then it is called Jnana Yoga. And when Buddhi Yoga or devotional service transcends both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga and becomes completely unalloyed, that devotion is called pure Bhakti Yoga or loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. The fruitive activities one performs in this world, whether according to social norms or Vedic standards, gives different results. Again, by experiencing the fruits of those labors, one creates new sets of activities and their concomitant results, which in turn give rise to newer sets of activities and their results. All these activities and their results cannot automatically be labeled Karma Yoga. We can see that the process of performing fruitive actions and experiencing their results is like a mammoth tree sprouting endless branches and twigs. Can the performer of actions who experiences the endless fruits of the mammoth tree ever enjoy peace and benediction? No. Therefore, it is said, in the dispensation of providence, mankind cannot have any rest. Even in this lifetime, one who performs fruitive work is totally entangled in the cycle of karma as he sits on the tree of material existence. As a result, the soul must enter 8 lakhs 400,000 species, 8,400,000 species and suffer the threefold miseries, never finding any rest or peace. Yet people find it impossible to renounce fruitive activities. Even the so-called sannyasis who make a show of renouncing such activities must still perform many activities, at least to relieve their hunger. Sripada Sankaracharya, seeing the condition of the sannyasis during his time, commented, one takes on many different garbs just to fill one's stomach. And trying to give up all activities is no solution. When Sri Arjuna, a warrior, wanted to forsake his duty of fighting a war, the Supreme Lord Krishna advised him, perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 8. A person should never give up his prescribed duty without scriptural authorization, for this will cause chaos in the world. Since it's impossible to maintain the body without activities, it is impossible to totally renounce activities. On the other hand, the tree of material entanglement, which thrives on fruitive activities and their results, can never bring forth any hope for peace. It is for this reason that the Supreme Lord has explained how one is to perform activities. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in this way you will always remain free from bondage. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 9. It is another kind of dispensation of providence when the fruits of actions do not bind one. To perform all activities only as a sacrifice for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu is true freedom from the results of activities or the real art of Karma Yoga. Through this process of Karma Yoga, one is freed from all the shackles of fruitive results and one's inherent eternal loving devotion for the Supreme Lord gradually manifests. This type of Karma Yoga is also referred to as desireless actions or Naishkarmya, or in other words, activities performed without expectation of any sense gratification. One who works in this way offers all the results of his actions to the Supreme Lord instead of enjoying them himself. All of us must try to earn whatever money is required to maintain ourselves and our family. Money buys food and food maintains our body. Without sufficient food, the body becomes weak and useless, and then it cannot generate further means for its mm, sustenance, which is the cause and which the effect is very difficult to establish. Such is the cycle of fruitive activities. Our material existence, birth or after birth, consists of going round the great cycle of fruitive activity. If by the mercy of the Supreme Lord or his pure representative, a fortunate soul caught in the midst of the turning wheel can understand his distressful condition, he begins to perform activities that will free him from this bondage. Life's only goal. Our objective is not the temporary peace and happiness available in the material world. As living entities, we are eternal, and hence the desire for permanent happiness should be our prime motive. Yet we souls change millions of bodies going up and down the 14 material planetary systems, chasing after illusory peace and pleasures, expending huge amounts of blood and energy. The permanent peace and happiness we demoniacally run after eludes us constantly. We do not know where real peace and happiness are available. As Prahlad Maharaj says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, chapter 9, text 25, in this material world, every living entity desires some fruitive happiness, which is exactly like a mirage in the desert. Where is water in the desert? Or in other words, where is happiness in this material world? In search of truth, we become deviated and taking shelter of the boat of the material body and mind, travel aimlessly in the ocean of material existence with no land in sight. Mercilessly tossed about, we brood. In the dispensation of providence, man cannot have any rest. If only we knew that our ultimate destination is Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we could end our suffering. To dispel our ignorance about this fact, Lord Krishna has informed us that we must perform all activities as a sacrifice for Lord Vishnu's satisfaction. The Rig Veda confirms this. Lord Vishnu is the supreme shelter of everything. All the demigods are constantly meditating on him. Thus, we see that the demigods also consider Lord Vishnu's lotus feet their supreme destination, and they become liberated simply by performing all activities for his pleasure. One who wants release from the vicious karmic cycle must have Lord Vishnu's lotus feet as his final objective. Otherwise, he will have to become demoniac. The followers of the Varnashrama way of life or Sanatana Dharma are now being called Hindus. Their forefathers, especially those who belong to the upper caste, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, centered their lives on Lord Vishnu. In every stage of life, especially in the householder stage, people worship Lord Vishnu in their homes, performing devotional service for his satisfaction. A few very devoted souls continue to do so even today. They collect money only for the Lord's service. The money buys grains and vegetables which they cook with devotion, then offer to Lord Vishnu. Later, the devotees honor this prasadam, the Lord's mercy in the form of food, by eating it. In all these activities, Lord Vishnu is the enjoyer, and one seeks to please him. In the past, the times were conducive to such activities, and even now they are practiced in many places. Actually, such devotional service is applicable to everyone, to all places, and to all times. Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the goal of everything. Performing all works for his satisfaction is the only way to open up the path of liberation from the cycle of fruitive action or karma. It is recommended that all progressive and beneficial activities be executed for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Echoing the words of the scriptures, the learned sages proclaim the attainment of Lord Vishnu's lotus feet is the same as becoming liberated. The final step in the Karma Yoga process is to satisfy Lord Vishnu, at which point one's own desires are automatically fulfilled. While delineating this point, Lord Krishna says that if work is not performed for his satisfaction, then all activities are tainted with sin and result in sinful reactions, which created havoc in society. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 13, Lord Krishna says the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is first offered for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Preparing and eating food in the way just mentioned is service to the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Sometimes it may appear that some sin is being committed in its execution, but if one takes and honors the remnants of the sacrifice or offering to Lord Vishnu, then one is automatically exonerated from all binding reactions and becomes liberated. Though we may live very carefully, trying to avoid sins and strictly follow the path of non-violence, still our lives are controlled by the cycle of karmic reactions. Hence, unwittingly, we are forced to commit many kinds of sin. We commit so many sins in business transactions, common human dealings, daily chores, and especially political and administrative activities. It it is fine to vociferously support non-violence, but in actual life, one is compelled to commit acts of violence. One may succeed in avoiding many kinds of sin, but it is impossible to escape committing the five great sins called Panchashuna. While walking on the street, we may crush many ants to death. While grinding, sorry, while grinding food grains or lighting a fire, we destroy many tiny lives. In this way, while executing our ordinary daily chores, we are forced to commit violence and take many innocent lives. Willingly or unwillingly, we commit sins. Thus, when a religion fabricated by the human brain prompts one to embrace a path of non-violence for its own sake, it inevitably gives advantage to one and difficulty to another. It is impossible to be exempted from the adversities caused by mentally concocted beliefs. According to man-made laws, if one person murders another, he is condemned to the gallows. But no action is taken against a man for killing animals. Such is not the law of providence. The law of God is such that it punishes the killers of both man and animals. Both acts of murder are penalized. The atheists deny the existence of God because, in this way, they think they can commit sins unhindered. But all the revealed authorized scriptures say that by killing innocent creatures, the householders commit many sins willingly or unwillingly while performing their normal daily activities. To get release from these sins, the householders are enjoined to perform certain sacrifices. Foremost of these is to eat and honor the remnants of food offered to Lord Vishnu. For those selfish householders who cook food only for their own sensual pleasure and not for the service of Lord Vishnu, they have to suffer all the sinful reactions incurred while cooking and eating. This is the law of providence. Therefore, to get rid of these sins, the followers of the Vedic religion dedicate their household activities to Lord Vishnu's service. The leaders of society are therefore advised to perform devotional service for Lord Vishnu's satisfaction, both for their own benefit and for the benefit of those they lead. As Lord Krishna says to Sri Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 21, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standard he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Because everyone follows their example, the leaders are required to carefully study the process of devotional service to Lord Vishnu. This is their duty. Thus, for the benefit of human society, there is a great need to construct universities that will impart knowledge of devotional service. Alas, the times are such that those who are considered leaders and stalwarts of society are more viciously inimical to God than others. Therefore, what devotional service Lord Vishnu's satisfaction can they perform? And if they cannot perform devotional service, then how will they gain release from their innumerable sins? If the stalwarts of society are not willing to declare that Lord Vishnu is the omnipresent, absolute truth, and that he is all pervasive due to his being both a person as well as formless, then what can the lesser man, the man on the street, understand about this esoteric subject matter? The Supreme Lord is the sole proprietor of everything. We cannot take the position of the enjoyer and the proprietor of this material world. Whatever the Supreme Lord mercifully gives as his remnants, that alone should be accepted. We must never desire another's property. As the Esopanishad states, everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Only when the leaders of society center all their activities on the Supreme Lord Vishnu, with these activities bring good fortune and benediction to the leaders themselves as well as to their followers. But if the leaders avoid perform their activities, uh, sorry, but if the leaders avoid performing their activities for Lord Vishnu and instead pose as Lord Vishnu themselves, taking worship, wealth, and praise from their followers and returning the same to them as remnants, then others might become attracted by their pretentious renunciation and thus follow their path to doom. But sycophants inducing them to perform many sinful acts, sorry, can you move it little down? But nothing further will be achieved. Such leaders usually excite their ignorant sycophants, inducing them to perform many sinful activities. In this way, such selfish leaders bring about their followers' doom simply to increase their own distinction, adoration, and wealth. Unfortunately, the leaders do not know that these minuscule portions of distinction, adoration, and wealth will be burned to ashes with their death. But the sinful methods used to acquire these temporary material advantages will beget results which is then very subtly mixed with their subtle body, namely mind, intelligence, and false ego. And these results will later become the seeds of further sinful activities, which will entangle the soul in the cycle of karmic reactions, birth after birth, forcing him go through many different species of life. How to cure the material disease? The general populace simply follows the dictates and decisions of the leaders who are bereft of any spiritual realization. Therefore, it is advised that the leaders of society should act responsibly. The easy path to prosperity opens up when these leaders intelligently put into practice the precepts of Karma Yoga. Without first becoming adept at curing one's own disease, why try to treat many patients? This is unreasonable. First, a leader has to adopt the principles of Karma Yoga in his own life. Then he has to diagnose the disease of the people. Then the medicine is to be prescribed and the proper diet given. Simply to offer the suffering people a sense gratificatory cure that stimulates their senses, this is not going to make them healthy. Rather, this will spread the disease further, and at one stage, the doctor himself will be infected and finally die from it. Forgetfulness of the Supreme Lord Vishnu is human society's real and original disease. So, if one does not treat this ailment but instead shows insincere and shallow concern for the patients, one might give them some momentary relief and pleasure, but ultimately, such a course of action cannot cure them permanently. If the patient goes for proper medicine and diet but is instead administered bad medicine and diet, then he is certainly in the jaws of death. The remnants of food offered to the Supreme Lord, known as prasadam, is the best diet for all patients. And to discuss and hear topics glorifying the Supreme Lord, to see the Lord's deity form and offer worship to Him, and to completely surrender oneself to the Lord, these constitute the greatest medicine, the panacea. These activities are the only secure path to prosperity, whereas other activities will wreak disaster. The practices of devotional service to the Lord can never cause harm to society. Rather, they can only usher in an age of opportunities and benediction. Those who are opportunists and financial speculators should calmly consider these facts. Stalwarts of society like Mahatma Gandhi are trying in various ways to usher in an age of peace, but because such endeavors are not inspired or blessed by the spiritually evolved saints, they are not turning out successful, nor will they be fruitful in the future. The god of the monists or Mayavadis cannot eat, see, or hear. Such a concocted, formless god can never bring peace to the world. How can a god who has no sensory organs see the miseries of the people or hear their heartfelt prayers? To worship such a formless God in the name of searching for spiritual truth can only produce misfortune in the world, never good fortune. In the Mayavada school of philosophy, discussions on pure knowledge can throw some light on the real nature of the absolute truth, but they are unable to fully reveal the esoteric and personal aspects of the supreme absolute being. These dry empirical discussions fall short of their objective, a complete understanding of the absolute truth. Therefore, only if leaders like Mahatma Gandhi strive to realize the supreme absolute person, not a formless energy, can they truly benefit human society. Conditioned human beings are expert at dealing with this material body and mind. These gross materialists who cannot see beyond materialistic activities find it impossible to believe that besides our material universe, a spiritual universe exists. Completely identifying with the body, such materialists are like animals, simply eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They are so captivated by these four animalistic propensities that they lose the power to discriminate between sinful and pious activities. They tirelessly endeavor for a little sense gratification, but all their efforts end in futility. Many modern scientists have taken up the role of priests, facilitating such gross activities which are beneficial and fatal. These scientists have made available a variety of products meant simply to titillate the senses, thus creating a deadly competitive mood among the materialists, which has in turn caused an obnoxious atmosphere in society. People think they become free and independent through such sensual activities, but actually they become more tightly bound up in chains. The greater their accumulated wealth, the greater their anxiety and depravity. As much as they try to usurp the Supreme Lord's position of being the only enjoyer, that much and more are they drawn into the jaws of a horrible death. And these activities make a Herculean task out of such a simple and basic activity as such sustaining the body, which needs a little nourishment only. A grade higher than this mean class of gross materialists are those who believe in the transmigration of the soul. These are the fruitive workers who perform pious activities such as giving in charity, but their only motive is to ensure that their next life is one of luxury and sense enjoyment. Neither of these grades of fruitive workers realize that both pious as well as sinful activities cause bondage. These materialists do not know that karma yoga, activity performed without fruitive desire, is the best form of the activity. Therefore, they often think that the karma yogis are as attached to this material world as the gross materialists. The sole motive of the karma yogi, however, is to instruct the members of society for their benefit. As Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 25, as the ignorant perform their duties without attachment for the sake of leading people on the sorry, as the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act but without attachment for the sake of leading people on the right path. Like others, sages who are in knowledge of the absolute truth maintain their bodies, but the difference is that the goal of all their activities is to satisfy Lord Vishnu. Although the general mass of people may wrongly think that the sages' activities are the same as their own, in fact, the sages are performing karma yoga, not fruitive activity. Present times have seen the widespread expansion of modern science and technology in our world in a variety of forms, which have entangled society more and more in the vicious cycle of karma. Huge factories, universities, hospitals, and so on are certain to entangle society further in the karmic cycle. Bygone ages never witnessed such huge, complex arrangements for gross materialistic activities. Wrong and simply bad association has tightly bound up the innocent populace in mean activities. But the learned man, the karma yogi, can show society how to perform all these activities for the satisfaction of the Lord. Previously, sages arranged for Lord Vishnu's deity to be worshipped in practically every household, thereby creating the atmosphere for people to become karma yogis. Similarly, it is now urgent that similar arrangements be made to worship and serve Lord Vishnu in the huge factories, mercantile firms, hospitals, and so on. This can firmly establish true equality among men under a spiritual banner. Lord Narayana is not poor. He is the supreme Lord of Lords, and hence attempts to say that the poor people are Narayanas is foolish. Rather, by widely organizing the worship and service of the Lord, one can greatly benefit everyone, including the poor. The Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests himself in many forms, but the sages have chosen three of his multifarious forms to serve and worship as the deity. They are Lakshmi Narayana, Sita Rama, and Radha Krishna. These three deity couples are widely worshipped all over the Indian subcontinent. Therefore, we request the owners of large factories and business firms to establish the worship of service of any of these three deities in their establishments. The owners can then distribute prasadam offered food to everyone. This practice will repair any disagreement between worker and owner because both will become karma yogis. Most factory workers and other laborers cannot maintain a good character and thus slide down to depravities. And, and if such derelicts increase in population, the world has no chance for a prosperous and fortunate future. But if the owners give their laborers and office staff prasadam, then both the givers and the receivers will gradually become purified and more attracted to the Supreme Lord. The whole society will become elevated, civilized, and united in harmony. On the other hand, by trying to achieve only their selfish interests, the owners create a situation in which any harmony or unity is not only fragile but dangerous. And when the owners fire these degraded laborers in pursuit of their crass self-interest, neither the owners themselves nor the laborers are benefited. Soon the workers automatically turn inimical toward their employers. When laborers and bosses perform activities that are not intended to please Lord Vishnu and are in fact troublesome to the Lord, they end up arguing and fighting with each other, thus creating an awful situation in society. The communists and socialists are spending money, intelligence, and even lives propagating their isms. The Bolsheviks revolted, disrupting the entire land of Russia and promising to fulfill the people's dream of a prosperous household life on a mass scale. The workers' unions are constantly at odds with the employers. All these complicated problems have one simple solution. Everyone should perform karma yoga or work meant to please the Supreme Lord. The endeavors human beings have made to establish a close and harmonious relationship with one another have culminated in the United Nations. This organization is based on the concept of the family unit. The gradual expansion of the family unit to a large community, to a village, to a state, to a country, and finally to a continent has given the clue for the formation of the United Nations. The thing to be noted, however, is its center. What is the central attraction? If the process of expansion were reversed, we would end up with the human body as the basic unit. The senses are of prime importance in the body. More important than the senses is the mind, then intelligence, and finally the false ego. And more important than the false ego is the real self, a pure spiritual being that is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore, the conclusion is that the fountainhead of everything is Lord Vishnu. For this reason, Prahlad Maharaj said, persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted their leader or guru, a similar blind man attached to external sense objects, cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. Those who lose sight of the center and become attracted to the externals are shallow and misguided. These misguided persons are, in a sense, blind. Hence, the world cannot expect them to give any guidance toward enlightenment. However, much these blind people may pretend to guide and benefit other blind people. Factually, they are fully controlled by the will of Providence. We should make the effort to understand that the cause and source of everything is Lord Vishnu, the absolute truth, and that the fullest manifestation of this absolute truth is Lord Krishna, the source of even Lord Vishnu. As Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 7, O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Thus, the ultimate source of everything is Lord Krishna himself, the all attractive Supreme Personality of Godhead. After considerable deliberation, the sages in the past concluded that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Being, the origin of all expansions and manifestations of the Supreme Absolute Truth. As the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 28 declares, all of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the Godhead. Later, we will discuss more thoroughly the subject of the expansions of Lord Vishnu. But for now, let us establish that Lord Krishna is the highest aspect of the Supreme. The Brahma Samhita 5.1 confirms this. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. Thus, if we can transcend the material body and its physical relationships and become connected with everyone through Lord Krishna, the original Godhead, we can relate on a platform of truth and reality, then the actual meaning of fraternity and equality will crystallize.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
For your reading and all the devotees for hearing. So we'll try to summarize as much as time permits for today. So the next section where we left off is godless demons. Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter, those who do not surrender him, they are the Namam Dushkritano Muda Prapatyante Naradama. Maya Asuram Bhava Asuram Bhava, gross materialistic demons. So they are bereft of spiritual knowledge. So although they know that the material body is temporary, they center their entire lives on that. And they do not make any effort to understand the soul, which is permanent and essential substance within the body, and which is, whereas the body is changing and temporary. So they propose the theory of evolution, and they think that there is no soul in this body. Yeah. So what is evolving is only the body and not this. There's no concept of soul at all. Just nature, survival of the fittest. So what they say is this material nature is evolving itself and not the soul. Uh, so therefore, they don't find the need for any understanding about the soul within the body. And furthermore, they do not take note of the presence of the super soul, who is present in the entire universe, maintaining this universe. So they center their entire knowledge on the body and they don't think beyond it. So, so as regards the material nature is concerned, they say that it's all based on certain laws. So many scientists have named the laws again after themselves. So, but it's neither of them is the lawmaker. Krishna is the only lawmaker. Nobody can claim that this is my law, Newton's law, Kepler's law, so like that. So, so generally people do push aside these kind of topics, and they whatever they know they consider that everything. And among the most intelligent, those people also they propose that impersonalism is the quintessence of everything. In other words, we don't care for anyone, including God. Ultimately, we are everything is false. So, but actually, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, beyond this manifest material and unmanifest nature, there is the transcendental and eternal state, Vyakto Avyakta. The Now the atheists, however, they are not able to accept this kind of a reality that there is something which is beyond the manifest and unmanifest material nature because they don't do regard to the scriptures. Because God is trying to attract us to that abode, as you can see in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So their minds are perverted. Perverted means they see everything in the opposite way because they have motivated interests. And therefore, they cannot see the longer picture. And therefore, they continue to perform activities that only cause misery to others. And this way, they have discovered the atom bomb. So there's no ultimate welfare to the citizens, as we can see in the present day. Even despite so much advancement, there's always some problem or the other. So even Ravana, for that matter, at that time itself, he tried to create a stairway to heaven. In other words, he thought there's no need to do pious activities, go to heaven, because all the devas, they worship Vishnu at the motive of going to heaven. So he thought, I'll go to heaven even without worshipping Vishnu. So by creating one facility, just like the scientists are trying to send man to the moon and other planets without doing any devotion. So he was trying to cheat Lord Ramachandra, but he was unsuccessful. And this kind of history repeats itself. And because we see the descendants of Ravana, they're attempting to cheat the plan of the Lord. And but they're trying to mislead the society by saying that whatever we are doing is for the benefit. Further, we see that the demons are being supported by similar demons. So each one is saying that my plan is the best. The opponent is saying his plan is the best, and this way they're trying to get the votes of the people. So here people give more importance to the votes than to the reality. Uh, Due to a short-sightedness of the leaders, they cannot bring any peace in the world. It's like we see many projects are there. They start off with so much investment of time, energy, and money. And ultimately, if you see, there's no much output in that. So many crores of thousands of rupees, dollars wasted because of these blind leaders. Uh, so they're trying to enjoy the resources provided by God in the form of Lakshmi, a goddess of fortune. And she actually belongs to the Lord, but they want to enjoy it for their benefit, whatever resources are available. So they tend to ignore about knowledge about God, and they're also very proud, and they think that he is the most intelligent. Yes, and uh, So whatever desires he has, he thinks them to be most beneficial to pursue such desires, especially for the benefit of human society. Just like we see many the Nazis, Hitler also, he motivated the Germans that we will push you, we will become the leaders, Aryan civilization, supremacy, like that. He led the whole nation to problems. Even the Japanese or Italians. Um, this kind of aspiration is illusory and unrealistic. And the demons continue to influence the populace through manipulation and just like we see in the present Afghanistan. The leaders are trying to convince the people that the Taliban is the best rule, and others are also accepting that. So these unclean and deluded demons, Ashuchi Prata, they 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 identify, they proclaim themselves as to be leaders without following in the authority of scriptures, and they're always showing themselves to be concerned with the welfare of the citizens. Uh, so they're building big marketplaces, shopping complexes, and stock markets. So like that, they're thinking they're creating good facilities for the people's welfare. Uh, but their ultimate objective is how they can benefit from this whole. Like every investment plan they make, they see that uh, ultimately what is their share in this whole thing. Not only for themselves, they think about everyone related to their body, like children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and even up to the dissolution of the world. They make such big plans. Uh, but instead of pleasure, they get only suffering. And because of the frustration, they declare war against others. Hmm. Uh, so because all their plans were frustrated, they want to get the benefit from someone else and snatch it from other. Uh, so their desires are insatiable, always increasing. Uh, Even despite earning a lot of money, they are not satisfied. So one is considered to be very expert if he can illegally amass huge fortunes. Like you see so many scandals happening, scams happening, and they're very proud of this achievement. And therefore, they're always hating, greedy, angry, lusty, all the six enemies. And they never become tired in their efforts to illegally amass this wealth and gratify the sensual urges. The moment they earn the money, they want to see how to spend it immediately. And the competitors are also, they're no less expert. Whatever this first category earns money, they somehow the other fellow is expert in snatching that also. Uh, just like when the demons, they got the nectar, one fellow was snatching the nectar from another fellow. So, in this competitive environment, uh, there is no possibility of peace and prosperity. So the aim of the demons is to increase his bank balance. Always he is thinking about the stocks and shares, how it is increasing and what is decreasing. They call it the bull and the something else, uh, bear. So when if these commodities become dearer, what Prabhupada means is the word dear means is very scarce. So then they want to create artificial scarcity so that their money account in their money in the account will increase. Uh, this way, they are planning for a bright future at the expense of others. Oh, so they're always planning how their enemies are getting destroyed, and whoever is still not been defeated, very soon he will be destroyed. So they think they want to make their position more and more secure. So the aim is to eliminate all their enemies, and they think that they are the God and the controllers and enjoy. So there is the need for God, and this way uh, they find everyone to be God. So they become more and more atheistic. They don't see the need for any God, and they are not interested in hearing about God also. So they also propagate that there is no God, that I am God. You know? So they try to, all these Upanishad says that everything belongs to other God, and we should not encroach upon other property. Um, they go beyond their limits and try to enjoy everything in this world, because they think they're very strong and they have accomplished so many things, and this way they can be very happy. Uh, and those who don't have all these resources are very weak. They should worship them as God. Uh, so they try to, like the Russians, where they're saying that there's no need for God, so you worship us. We'll provide you the bread, daily bread. So in the course of all this, they go to hell. Uh, Even the demons seem to be performing some religious activities, but only as a matter of show, so that people will respect them. And just like we see some politicians, they go to the Muslims and behave like Muslims. When they meet the Christians, they act like Christians, and they meet the Hindus, they behave like Hindus. So this is to get popular votes and increase their ego. Uh, so they are creating one kind of violence, in the sense that trying to subdue the people and control them in many ways. So they don't follow any scriptures, but their only aim is to get the popular opinion. They have all the bad qualities. Uh, they're fully engrossed in bodily consciousness of me and mine, and they identify themselves to one particular religion or community, and they penetrate acts of violence on others. As we see in the Iraq also, Saddam Hussein, he killed many of his own Muslim members because they belong to some different subsect. So this is happening in India also, and among the different communities. And but the Lord time and again comes to put an end to these kind of demons, uh, by punishing them and using the laws of material nature or Daivi Maya. And they take repeated births as demons, and they can never appreciate the Lord's name, form, qualities, and activities. Uh, So they also conclude that there is no God in person, and in this way they cause suffering to themselves and others. So why does this kind of a demoniac mentality uh, happen to them? So one of them is that uh, lust, anger, and greed. These are the three gateways to hell. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about this in the divine and demonic natures, 16th chapter. These are the destroyers of the uh, self portals leading to hell. Portal means it's like you have portals to get entry into on website. These are three gateways to hell. Now God is the, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, 29 verse, Bhuktaram Yajna Tapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. So when the living entities forget that Krishna is the proprietor, enjoyer, and sacrifices, austerities, and is the well-wisher, they develop a desire to enjoy this material world, and they are not satisfied by all these endeavors, and therefore their anger produces, and because of the frustration, they are like the fox and the jackal and the sour grapes. And jackal tried to reach up to the grapes on the creeper on the top and jumped several times, and when it could not get, then it said, "Oh, these grapes are sour." So he became satisfied like that. So, so when their attempts to enjoy life have failed, they renounce artificially, saying that there is no happiness in this world. But at the bottom of their heart, they're always thinking about um, how to get some happiness. And unless one comes to this transcendental stage of accepting, uh, comes to the stage of transcendence, he has to oscillate between this acceptance and rejection of physical pleasures and um, so unless one comes to this transcendental status, he continues to cultivate the demonic mentality. So we have to study the injunctions of the scriptures and act accordingly. So if we act with the chaos and in the undisciplined manner, contrary to the scriptural injunctions, and act out of lust. So in this way, we cannot overcome anger and greed because the lust increases. Therefore, we cannot experience happiness also and elevate our consciousness. Oh. So we have to take guidance from the scriptures, that to reveal scriptures where everything, because if we read scriptures by ourselves also we can be bewildered. The scriptures are revealed to us by the author bona fide acharyas. And when we follow those injunctions straightforwardly, we can become free from this lust and this chaotic lifestyle. So because in this Kali Yuga, people are generally short-lived, misguided, unfortunate, and always tormented by disease and distress, karapidita. uh, And so they cannot they do not appreciate the scriptures. They think, what is the value of all this Bhagavad Gita and all the scriptures when the problems are remaining? And even the propagandists of the different religions, they themselves are not following the injunctions of their respective scriptures. And um, and they ridicule the same sacred texts. People are losing interest in continuing to live a demonic life of unrestricted sense enjoyment. However, the devotees are very concerned about them and about the influence of Kali Yuga. So they are most compassionate, Vaishnava, Paradukka Dukhi, and they they try to deliver this fallen living entities. So because of the desire of the devotees, the Supreme Lord also responds to those desires, and so he um, assists them to help these kind of suffering souls of Kali Yuga. So Lord Chaitanya, he has given the method of salvation, and uh, the previous ages, people had to study the Vedas and purify oneself by living according to the instructions of Vedas. But since it is not possible in Kali Yuga, uh, especially one cannot be celibate, and mostly people are degraded and sinful, they cannot study the Vedas and what to speak about following them. So therefore, we cannot impart the Vedic knowledge to such persons, and because they lack the proper upbringing and discipline. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uh, has given us the very easy process. But unfortunately, people don't receive this mercy and therefore bereft of that benefit. However, those who realize the importance of Lord Chaitanya's mercy and accepted it, they are able to escape the punishments of Maya. And but for those who want to be implicated in this karmic reaction cycle, they are getting a thorough beating by Maya, the threefold miseries. Uh, Therefore, the Supreme Lord has created an arrangement by which they can gradually please the Lord through Karma Yoga and with the aim of sacrifice. Yajnatat karmano mitra lokoja. So, the sages are mentioned that there are 84 lakh species, among them 9 lakh aquatics, 20 lakh plants, trees, mountains, and immovable species. Even the mountains and are considered life forms because it is said that the mountains grow in size. Uh, So that is the Vedic conception that there's a living soul everywhere. Only it's a degree of varying consciousness. Even the non-moving things like or even moving rivers, they also are said to possess life form. And there are 11 lakh insects, worms, 10 lakh bird species, 30 lakh animal species, and 4 lakh human species. So after going through all these species for different types of enjoyment, the soul gets an opportunity to born as a human, and particularly in Bharatavarsha, India. Uh, so this is possible through his awakening of consciousness, and the process of evolving through these many life forms, many millions of years have passed, and even after coming to this human being, if one is not able to overcome the influence of Maya, and then it is very unfortunate. So therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Sri Chaitanya Sardamrita, has written that one who has taken his birth in the land of Bharatavarsha should make his life successful and work for the benefit of other people. So the best way to perfect our life is to follow in the footsteps of the Mahajanas, and who have always shown us the proper path. Uh, so this path is recommended because nowhere people have been successful in overcoming the influence of Maya except for these Mahajans. And unless we surrender to the Lord, it's not possible to overcome. But unfortunately, in the Western countries, uh, although they have made so much advancement in material science, which is based on the material mind and body, they are very illusory. It is said that therefore we see even the Westerners, despite their so much advancement, they are still lamenting. They cannot find any peace, and even the Indians have following their example, and they are in a similar lamenting position, although they are supposed to be guiding the world. And so this Indians have become given up their culture and become beggars from the Western civilization. Uh, Although they claim to be independent, they are fully dependent on the Western mindset. So the Western countries, they have no knowledge about Sambandha, Abhidya, and Prayojana. What is the relationship with God? How to act in that relationship, and how to love and serve God. Uh, so although they have developed in many mundane matters, and they are always in despair and without any direction. So the Indians are also uh, more interested in such kind of development, and they are also feeling without any aim in life and the frustration. Now the surprising thing is the Western people are thinking towards India and search for peace and prosperity. Um, so therefore, there is some hope that uh, because of their earnest desire, they will take interest in this kind of subjects. So stop there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So as I said, this book is important because Prabhupada wrote it for the modern man, and the world has not changed much. The same problems are there. So therefore, these solutions are universal and for all time, place, and candidates. So we can benefit from these articles written for the Back to Part magazine. And apart from Prabhupada books, these articles are like the journals we publish, just like we have books and also journals. They are in tune with the current times. Hare Krishna. Jagarpatarbhyascha kripasindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo. So we'll meet morning tomorrow for the chanting session. I think Patit Pavan is still not there, so we'll start the session and Hare Krishna. Harish Prabhu, you're there?
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, यू आर द होस्ट प्रभु।
अंकित प्रभु बात हुई कि
क्या माता जी?
वो जो था जिसने लिखा था आईआईटी मद्रास के एलुमनी से
हाँ।
पूछे क्या?
उनको मेल भेजा है माता जी, लेकिन उनका रिप्लाई नहीं है।
ओके कोई बात
हाँ।